Video is going to be about really getting things in writing. If you're initiating a divorce with someone who maybe has narcissism, maybe borderline, maybe they're just a high conflict in general, maybe they just have a lot of those traits, maybe a lot of those personality traits. The purpose of this video is to encourage you to kind of get things in writing. One thing that I've noticed for those that have been in these relationships, right? If you're married to someone who has a personality disorder and you have been for a long time, the relationship tends to be really enmeshed. And I've talked about this before, but it's so dysfunctional, and it's so interesting to at least to me, to see people who are the low conflict person, or often the person who's codependent, and they still almost seem to have this major cognitive dissonance towards their partner, even if they have countless examples of their spouse or their partner like flipping on a dime, going from angel to demon like that, contradicting themselves like that. The codependent type still has a tendency, for reasons that I still don't completely understand, or the low conflict type, to continue to give them the benefit of the doubt, or maybe even take them at their word, even though they have flipped on a dime more times than you can probably count. If you are going to divorce one of these folks, what you need to understand is that they, even no matter what they say they're going to do, they may say, you know what, I don't want a long drag out court battle, or I don't want I don't want a custody battle. Let's just decide on some things together. And I hope they're sincere. I really do. In my experience, especially those who have a personality disorder, they do have those moments where they do seem genuine and concerned about the well-being of the kids and what's going to happen with the kids. But when it gets down to it, they end up dragging their ex through this horrible court battle, accusing them of things that they didn't do, making all kinds of outrageous claims. And so what you're going to want to do is, before you really, really go through with anything major, see if you can get some things in writing. And I mean like signed. And so let's say that you're having a conversation with them, and they say, I just want what's best for the kids. You go, oh, great. Yeah. Hey, me too. And maybe we should put down in writing what do you think, and ask them, what do you think that means? What do you think the best interests of the kids are? What would you like to see happen? And maybe they will say, well, we should have 50-50 custody. Oh, you know what? I agree. That's great. Maybe we should write it down, right? Put it in writing. Maybe get them to sign it. See if they're willing to, say it on a voice recorder even. And, make sure if you record anything, and I've given this advice to other clients before, record the conversations, but make sure that they know that you're doing it. Because if you record conversations without them knowing and you end up in an ugly court battle, they could easily say, well, he or she lied, he or she manipulated me. I wasn't informed they were recording things. They took advantage of the situation. They manipulated me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They can make all sorts of claims. And again, and I've said this in other videos, when you take evidence or the case or whatever is going on and you put it into the hands of the court, all bets are off. I have zero faith and zero confidence in the family court system. None. I have zero faith in them. There's no consistency whatsoever. I talk about this all the time. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But what you want to really do your best to do is establish a system of agreements prior to any mediation that you have, or anything else that you have. And again, see if you can agree to the very specific stipulations. See if you can agree to really specific things, and see if they will sign it, and then make make at least 1,000 copies of it. At least. So that you have it in writing. Because honestly, and I've seen this so many times, the high conflict type, and here's what happens for them, right? maybe they're with the family, maybe they're with you, what you need to understand about the nature of personality disorders is the personalities in fragments. And the fragments almost seem to act independently, which is kind of the description, right, of DID, or dissociative identity disorder, which is formerly known as multiple personality disorder. But these different fragments almost seem to work independently without interacting with each other or talking to each other. So one of them might say one thing and the other might do another. So even if you have that moment where they're like, I really don't want a bad court battle, and you're like, that's great, neither do I. And as soon as the divorce is initiated and you move out, reality for them might set in, and another fragment, usually the one that resorts to anger and fear and aggression, hostility, worst case scenarios, horribalizing, usually takes over and dominates. And in that case, they tend to fire all missiles. They tend to go all out. It's almost like once the divorce actually sets in and maybe the other person moves out or whatever, fight or flight kicks in, and they suddenly feel a strong compulsion to just fight tooth and nail and make it ugly for you. And I've seen this before, where people will say, well, he or she says that they want to keep it so that's not super ugly. And I'm like, I hope that's true. This is where I want to be wrong. I mean, here's the final point that I'm going to make on this. You would do better to prepare for the worst case scenario and hope for the best. So hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And preparing for the worst is getting as much documentation as much as possible as you can. If they say, I think we should have 50-50 of the kids, you go, oh, okay, great. Why don't we put that in writing? And they, oh, okay, sure. And you bust out your laptop, hammer it out. Well, what about this? What about that? What about holidays? What about vacations? What about, grandma and grandpa's, whatever the case may be? What schools? The questions that you have to think about. And what about deciding on going to the doctor and all of that? What do you think about all that? And if you're sitting with them and you're coming to some good agreements with them, yeah, you may just want to be like, I think it'd be really good if we just, hammered this out. And again, pull out your laptop, type it up, and see if you can get them to put their John Hancock on that thing. And so if you do end up getting pulled into court, you could just say, we actually talked about all of this stuff before, and here it is in writing. He or she signed it. I even have a voice recording of the whole situation. I don't know why they're turning on me. And in that case, you might be able to skip a long, drawn-out court battle. But there's a lot more to the story just in terms of divorcing and custody and all that. So make sure you check out my courses on udemy.com on dealing with high conflict divorce and custody and co-parenting. So the links are in the description below. Again, the bottom line here, hope for the best and absolutely prepare for the worst. And so thanks for watching. Of course, obviously, you know what to do, like and subscribe and share and all that stuff. And so hang in there. Good luck with everything.